Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and is Diablo 4 Season 9 a win or an L? Let's discuss. Later in the video, we'll talk about the huge Microsoft layoffs this week. 9,000 jobs cut, studios closed, games canceled. We'll also briefly talk about the Stop Killing Games movement and its latest milestone. Do be sure to ring that sub-notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes. Starting off with the Diablo news. Season 9 of D4 launched on Tuesday, and reactions from the community are, well, let's say mixed. The short version. Some people are having fun. Some people are just done with the game. Same old without enough variation from season to season. And some people have just been waiting for the game to improve in significant ways, and they're not seeing those changes yet, and basically are waiting for expansion 2 at this point. Now, on paper, it's hard to argue that this isn't the best season so far. And I feel I've repeated this for almost every season now. And again, on paper, it's true. The game continues to get improvements. Nightmare dungeons are actually good now. They quietly snuck in some quality of life improvements elsewhere. The seasonal powers are probably the best executed ones yet. For a new player, this is the best state the game has ever been in. But for those who've been playing the game since launch, progressive upgrades season over season isn't exactly something to get excited about. Am I enjoying the season? Yes, I am having fun. I wasn't really hyped for the season, but I think it ended up being polished since PTR, and it's well executed. I don't have any major complaints about what has been delivered. I generally enjoy playing Diablo 4, and this season is, more of the same. Now, is it possible for me to enjoy this game even more and be more excited for a season launch if certain kinds of content were added or certain changes were made? Yes, absolutely. To answer the question I keep getting asked, is it worth playing Season 9? Well, if you don't like Diablo 4, then no, it is not. Season 9 is it's the best apple pie that Blizzard made. If you don't like apple pie, then you won't like Season 9. If you generally enjoy Diablo 4, if Season 8 didn't burn you out on the game, then you will probably like Season 9. If you didn't like Season 8 because of power fatigue or any other reason really, if you didn't like Season 8, you're not going to like Season 9 either. Now, if you haven't played Diablo 4 since like Season 3 or earlier, then it is worth revisiting the game today to see if you like it now, because it has changed in significant ways since then. You already spent money on the game, may as well see if you like it now. And no, you do not have to buy the expansion to play Season 9. And as a reminder, folks, I have a video going over the kind of endgame system I would like to see added to Diablo 4 that I think would make me enjoy the game a lot more. And a lot of people responded positively to the idea and also agree that this is the kind of thing that Diablo 4 needs. And I'll reiterate, it's just a concept. It's not something ready to be added to the game as is. It's just an example to convey the spirit of what we're looking for. So, I said I have no major complaints about Season 9, so let's go over the minor complaints I have. There's some weird bug that has made the chat font extra large and nothing we can do about it. The bug with Infernal Hordes is back, where I can't see how much ether I have to spend on my rewards, and therefore I also can't track how efficient I'm being. This was kind of annoying because it's been 2 seasons now. I mean, come on. I guess they just really don't want us doing Infernal Hordes until Season 10, which is said to be the Infernal Hordes rework. And Season 10 is likely to begin on September 23rd, as per the in-game notification on when the current reliquary ends. The drop rates for Arcana that's a segment of the Heraldric Powers, the season theme. The drop rates for Arcana were criminally low at season launch. Now, they fixed this within a day and a half, so kudos there. Gotta credit them for being swift to fix it, but it kind of boggles the mind how that passed muster. Now, by itself, it wasn't the end of the world for the Arcana drops to be so rare, but we needed to collect them as part of the season journey in a fairly early step. So I was stuck on like Chapter 2 of the season journey while I was on like Torment 3 difficulty because I'd only found 2 Arcana. So I was so bottlenecked in my progression of the season journey that by the time I was able to claim the rewards later on, they're all useless to me. And speaking of Arcana, they drop looking like regular items. I'm sure many of you folks who have played have missed a lot of these drops. People ignore rare items pretty early on, and many of the Arcana drops look just like rare items. There's no special leaf icon on the minimap or a different color or anything. Big oversight there, in my opinion. Now, Nightmare Dungeons have been greatly improved with tons of positive affixes that actually feel good now. Even the negative affixes have been improved. There's like new ambush encounters, which are pretty cool. Now, one of those positive aspects grants extra XP. However, it does so by dropping XP globes. These globes spawn on the ground after killing monsters, but it's kind of on a delay. So if I have an efficient build, I've already run past the dead monsters by the time the globe spawns, and I gotta backtrack to pick them up because my pet isn't gonna pick them up. Also, in party play, everyone sees the same globes, but the XP is only given to the player who picks it up. Not fun. Then it's our regularly scheduled time to complain about tempering again. The problem that just won't go away. I'm pretty sure I said this back when they first implemented the scrolls of retempering. Just a band-aid solution. It makes the problem being bricking, happen less often, but it does still happen. Now, yes, randomness is at the heart of the ARPG. I fully agree. And getting random loot is huge fun. Because it's like, winning the lottery. But randomness in crafting outcomes is not fun. We want RNG loot and deterministic crafting. The whole point of crafting is to allow players to take control of bad RNG. And I'll repeat, this isn't about me wanting to make the game easier. I'd rather tempering be more expensive and less RNG based so that I have to be selective in what items I choose to temper. Because if I get an upgrade, maybe I can't afford to temper it until I farm back up the temper resources. As opposed to basically having infinite temper materials, and what I'm running out of is base items that are worth tempering. Oh, also, which is the season that's going to rework cellars to actually be worth exploring? Alright, let's end with some of the good though. I was concerned that we would not feel the impact of our heraldric powers. I do very much feel the impact of my heraldric power. I think it's a lot of fun. I was concerned that the Astaroth fight would feel like a waste of time. It kind of felt that way to me on PTR. He now feels rewarding. I'm still not convinced I feel the sense of escalation in an escalating nightmare, but I nonetheless do still enjoy doing escalating nightmares, at least for now. As a whole, I like the reworked nightmare dungeons. I think it's very effective. I'm also glad that you can run the nightmare dungeons and the escalating nightmares prior to level 60 for players to experience the new content prior to endgame. Would just be great if a nightmare dungeon sigil would have an indicator on it when it is currently an active bounty. Or whisper, sorry. The strong rooms. I enjoy doing them, but I gotta say I feel there's a real lack of clarity on what the hell is going on inside them. It's just a chaotic mess of running around, racing against the clock to kill monsters while there's a bunch of side objectives and things happening, and it's not clear what's a priority or how to optimize things. And if your build is strong enough, it doesn't really matter. You just run around killing things and you easily beat the timer regardless of your approach, which kind of makes the side objectives feel over-engineered in a way that the Undercity or Infernal Hordes don't. Like in those two game modes, the purpose of the objectives is clear to me. I always have a sense of the choices that I'm making, why I'm making these choices, what are the impact of those choices. I don't know, maybe I just need more experience with strong rooms for it to click for me. Oh, we got a nice quality of life addition here. In the wardrobe, you can now select one transmog item, like a helm, a chest, whatever. You hold down your click or your select, whatever type of controller you're using, and it's going to apply the entire set of that transmog to your character, as opposed to just the one item. This is really helpful because previously, if you wanted to equip an entire set, you have to individually go to every piece of gear and like look through the 80 billion cosmetics and try to find which is the one that goes with that set by looking at the little like 3x8 pixel tiny, icon and basing yourself on the names. And some sets have no, just the naming, the nomenclature system just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, it's a great change. Now, if you folks are planning to dive into Season 9, I have a class tier list and an Ultimate Season 9 guide that covers the fastest leveling methods and how to get and use your heraldric powers, so do check those out. For those who tried Season 9, what are your thoughts? Sound off in the comments. Now on Twitter, Diablo's Global Community Development Director Adam Fletcher stated, quote, "Just know that your war cries of wanting more change aren't going unnoticed. The team has been cooking on some of the biggest changes that really hit home on things people have been asking for and more." Well, hopefully Season 10 is when we start seeing these changes. Fletcher also commented on the boss immunity phases for Andariel, Duriel, and Mephisto. something we've been complaining about now for at least a season or two. And he said, quote, "There are plans to fix this up. We'll see what the team does." Meanwhile, the Season 9 quest line has a teaser for Expansion 2, it would appear. An NPC is urging townsfolk to head west on a pilgrimage to the Prophet. Now, this lines up with my theory that Mephisto, in disguise as Akarat, will head west across the sea, back to Honduras, to revisit Westmarch and other familiar locations to Diablo fans. I have a whole video going over my theories right here. Lastly, Diablo 2 celebrated its 25th anniversary last weekend, and Blizzard left a cryptic tweet stating, quote, "If you think you've seen and done it all, just wait for the chaos we're yet to unleash." Some fans are getting really hyped over this, and, oh man, I think we should just... let's not set ourselves up for disappointment, okay? Expect the minimum. This way, anything above that will be a pleasant surprise. Don't go in expecting, like, a new expansion to D2 or something. You know, maybe we'll get a season theme for D2 that adds, like, some new rune words, maybe a new endgame feature or something, but honestly, I don't even want to set my expectations that high. Now, to celebrate the 25th anniversary, Path of Exile co-creator Chris Wilson sat down with Diablo co-creator David Brevik for a really interesting interview. Wilson is a huge Diablo 2 fan, arguably the biggest Diablo 2 fan in the world. And we learned that after leaving Grinding Gear Games, he is now looking to start up on new projects, and he's actually looking to hire an art director with a deep familiarity with Diablo 2. Definitely check out the interview. Link in the description below. It is unlike any other David Brevik interview you may have seen over the years, because Chris Wilson asks some questions and gives some insights that only someone who has also developed an ARPG can. Also, subscribe to his YouTube channel, because now we're going to move on to some devastating industry news. Last week, we reported on rumors that Microsoft was on the brink of laying off about 2,000 people. Well, this week, Microsoft laid off around 9,000 people, about 4% of its total global workforce, in what is now the second largest round of cuts in company history. The biggest was last year, when 11,000 people lost their jobs. And once again, Xbox studios have taken a massive hit. Let's start with Blizzard. Less than a year after Warcraft Rumble launched on PC, Blizzard has ended all new content development for the game. According to former team members, most of the Rumble team has been laid off. Warcraft Rumble began development 9 years ago, so this isn't just a little mobile game quietly winding down. It was a long-term project that's now been shuttered in under a year. Meanwhile, Xbox's Perfect Dark reboot is officially dead. The Initiative, that's the name of the studio that Microsoft formed back in 2018 specifically for this quadruple A project, they've been shut down. Crystal Dynamics was actually co-developing that one, and all they've really seemed to produce over the years was a couple of trailers. Alex Wilton Regan, the Joanna Dark voice actress, even took to social media asking fans to try to save the game, but at this point, there may be nothing left to save. Everwild, the mysterious game by Sea of Thieves developers Rare, which was first announced in 2019, was cancelled this week. That game spent close to a decade in development limbo and was reportedly still in early production even now. Rare has lost key figures like Greg Mayles and Louise O'Connor, both of whom also helped lead Sea of Thieves. It's unclear what's next for the studio. ZeniMax Online Studios, the devs of The Elder Scrolls Online, also had a major MMO project codenamed Blackbird in development since 2018. That's been cancelled too, despite reports that executives loved what they saw just a few months ago. And to add salt to the wound, staff were locked out of their Slack accounts before even being told whether they were laid off. The studio's longtime game director, Matt Firer, is also leaving after 18 years with the company. Doesn't even stop there. Turn 10 Studios, makers of Forza Motorsport, reportedly laid off nearly half their staff. State of Decay 3 developer Undead Labs was hit. Compulsion Games, Mojang's QA team, Halo Studios, formerly 343 Industries. All these guys were affected. Even Call of Duty developers like Sledgehammer, Raven, and High Moon saw layoffs. Candy Crush maker King reportedly cut 200 jobs. That's 10% of their staff. And this all happens right after Microsoft pledged an $80 billion investment in AI. Some reports indicate that Microsoft is trying to replace as many jobs as they can with AI agents, which leads us to maybe the most tone-deaf moment of the week. An Xbox executive, Matt Turnbull, took to LinkedIn to tell laid-off employees they should try using ChatGPT to ease the emotional and cognitive load of losing their job. He even shared sample prompts the laid-off employees could use, like this gem right here. Quote, "I'm struggling with imposter syndrome after being laid off. Can you help me reframe this experience in a way that reminds me what I'm good at?" That post has since been deleted. Now, this week did not happen in a vacuum. It's just part of a greater trend we've been seeing from Microsoft for a while now. And it's leading people to question, is Microsoft even capable of running game studios? Now, allegedly in recent years, Microsoft has been very hands-off with their studios, which sounds great, but then that leads to some studios working away at a project for nearly a decade with nothing to show for it and then being shut down. Now, Obsidian, that seems to be one of the few Xbox acquisitions that has thrived under this style of governance, because they're a veteran studio that doesn't need that level of management. But for other studios, there is apparently such a thing as being too hands-off. This seems like an overcorrection from Xbox's original approach back when they bought Bungie and stifled them into wanting to break free, or when they ran Lionhead into the ground by forcing them to work on Kinect games. There's gotta be some happy middle ground between being too controlling and simply writing blank checks. Bruno Diaz, former lead narrative and systems designer on Fall in London, said on Blue Sky, quote, "When mass layoffs are just a quarterly event, is this not just a death spiral? Xbox already seems to be pivoting, Sega-like, away from hardware and toward being purely a publisher. At the same time, they're gutting their portfolio. Okay, are you going to have a company at the end of all of this? Xbox behaves like a company that's been sold to private equity and is having the copper stripped out of the walls." Bethesda allegedly canceled funding for several unannounced projects at multiple studios, with the team at Romero Games being one of them. They had their funding canceled for an unannounced project they were working on. Romero Games was founded by the John Romero back in 2015, and they were working on an FPS. On social media, the team said, quote, "We deeply wish there had been something, anything we could have done to prevent this outcome. We hit every milestone on time. Every time, consistently received high praise and easily passed all our internal gates." Meanwhile, Microsoft is fighting back against rumors that Xbox boss Phil Spencer is retiring by saying, no, he is not retiring anytime soon. In other news, the Stop Killing Games petition has officially hit 1 million signatures, an absolutely massive milestone in the fight for digital consumer rights. But while it's a major win, the fight is not over yet. Now, if you don't know, the petition is part of an official European Citizens Initiative, or an ECI. That's not just an online petition where you just throw in your email and you can feel good about yourself. ECIs are legally recognized instruments that can force the European Commission to respond and potentially even legislate if the initiative meets all the requirements. And hitting 1 million verified signatures is the critical threshold. Now, here's the thing. Yes, we have 1 million signatures right now, but not all signatures are going to count. Historically, you tend to see between 20 to 30% of entries getting tossed during the verification process. This is due to duplicates. People, don't realize they already signed it. They try to sign it again. Some people putting in fake names. Sometimes you have non-EU people signing, like Americans. Some people just make typos. So unfortunately, that means while this is a great milestone, this is just the beginning. To safely pass, the organizers are aiming for 1.3 to 1.5 million signatures. As of the time of this recording, actually, we're up to 1.1, so that's good. We just got to make sure there's enough of a buffer to account for errors and still clear the bar once the audit happens. Again, for context here, only EU citizens can sign the official petition. UK residents have a separate petition that's making the rounds. Now, in terms of impact, if this initiative is successful, it could force the European Commission to draft legislation preventing companies from permanently shutting down digital games and services that people paid for. In other words, it's about making it illegal to kill access to a game you own just because the publisher decided it wasn't profitable anymore. If passed, this would be a landmark win for consumer protection, and it could set a precedent that affects not just Europe, but global practices. Now, this does not mean that devs are never allowed to shut down their games, that they have to, bankrupt themselves for eternity to keep a game running. That's not what it means. It means they'd have to ensure that the game is still playable in some form, even if they shut down their servers. For instance, providing an offline mode. So if you're in the EU and you haven't signed the petition, please do it. And if you already have signed it, spread the word. This might be our best shot yet at keeping the games we paid for, from disappearing into the void forever. And that's going to wrap up this video, folks, but do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed the Diablo 4 Season 9 dev livestream. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.